Hello, I'm Chris Casey.
And I'm Kristen Lagana. Welcome to Arundel County Week in Review. We're happy to be back to bring you all the news and information going around your county. Today we'll sit down with Police Chief Tim Altomare and we'll review some upcoming holiday events. But first, making headlines. Well, the man sitting next to me is not the only new face you'll be seeing around town. This week, a whole new team of elected officials were sworn into office. Steve Shue, of course, took the oath to become our 9th county executive. Before a packed house at Maryland Hall in Annapolis, dignitaries talked about the new executive, and Shue talked about his plans upon taking office.
The election just finished confirms that the citizens believe government has become too big and too expensive. Our people are struggling. People are struggling to live here, to start business here, to create jobs here. So it's time to move in a new direction.
There are a slew of other new faces, including 3 new members of the County Council and 6 new delegates representing Anne Arundel County in the State House. Of course, we will have a new governor when Larry Hogan is sworn into office on January 21st. So Chris, welcome.
Thank you.
And can you tell us about yourself and your role with the county?
Sure. Well, I'm the Constituent Service Officer for Northern Anne Arundel County. And in that job, I'm responsible for being receptive to concerns that citizens may have when they contact the county executive, and not only being receptive, but finding solutions to the best of our ability for them.
Great. And are you an Anne Arundel County native? Are you from here?
Born and raised my whole life.
And where'd you go to high school?
Chesapeake High School.
All right, go Chesapeake.
See, I absolutely love the holidays, Kristen. The turkey, the football, the ugly sweaters, the lights, all of it. But don't forget that there are many ways to help your neighbors who are less fortunate during this holiday season. Be sure to check out our community calendar to check out some of the food and clothing drives going on. We're going to bring you tons of holiday information, including a look next week at some of the best light displays in the county. We'll put it to a vote to choose the best of the best. Meanwhile, the festivities have already begun. Pasadena had its annual Christmas tree lighting ceremony, and the annual Lights on the Bay tour has also begun. You can check out the tour of some of the county's most impressive displays for the entire month. And admission there is $14 per car. You can find $2 discounts in local newspapers and at your local library. And the fun starts at Sandy Point Park in Annapolis. You drive through more than 60 animated and stationary displays. The tour is sponsored by Anne Arundel Medical Center and runs from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. every night of the week.
As we told you in the opening, there are lots of new faces in Anne Arundel County government. We want to introduce you to some of the folks who will appear regularly on this show. They are your constituent service representatives, and they are ready to help you. Earlier this week, Chris talked to each of them, and he filed this report.
We're here to introduce you to the brand new Constituent Services team today.
My name is Nancy Schrum, Director of Constituent Services, working with a wonderful group of constituent specialists ready to roll regarding answering any concerns or issues you have as a citizen of Anne Arundel County relative to government services. We are just a phone call away at 410-222-1785.
Thank you, Nancy.
Hi, my name is Cindy Bowler. I am the Administrative Assistant to Constituent Services.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Victor Henderson, and I'm representing South County.
I am Sarah Gannon, and I am representing East County.
My name's Michelle Corcadell, and I'll be representing West County.
That's your new Constituent Services team. Back to you.
Chris, you have a lot of firsts this week, an anchor and a field reporter in one shot. Nicely done, sir.
Thank you.
We're gonna take a quick break so Chris can rest for a minute and figure out which Chris he is. And when we come back, we'll talk with our new police chief, Tim Altomare. Take a look at the community calendar for what is happening around the county. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back. Joining us today on our first show of Week in Review is Chief Tim Altomare, Chief for Anne Arundel County Police. Thank you so much for joining us today and welcome to the show.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me.
So can you tell us a brief bit about how your first week on the job's been?
My head's spinning. You know that taking the job is going to involve a large amount of taking in of information and figuring out what's going on very quickly. But until you delve into it, I don't think there's any way to explain how large that assimilation has to be for you to get spun up and into an effective range quickly. And truthfully, it's been a whirlwind from the inauguration the other day through now. I really haven't stopped. I've gone home, ate quickly, and gone to bed. And that's okay too. It's expected, and as with any adjustment when you take on new responsibilities, particularly in the police culture, you always expect to do at least several months of really long days when you take over a new command, and when you factor in how much goes on the police department. It's going to be a fair amount of time in the next few months that I'm working long days, and that's as it should be.
Very good. And can you tell us a bit about your history with the police department?
Yes, ma'am. So I started with Annapolis City,
okay.
Going somewhere around 21 years ago. I went to Annapolis City after I came out of the Marine Corps. I was a Marine infantryman, and I got hired by Annapolis City. Did just about 5 years with them, all of it in uniform, much of it doing uniform street drug interdiction. Learned quite a bit in 5 years in Annapolis City. It's a great police department, but with 125 sworn officers, you have to do a little bit of everything, you know. So you learn quite a bit in the first year or two there, and then after 5 years with the city, you look at the potential for specialized assignment and the potential for career development and those things, and a bigger department kind of makes sense to you. So I lateraled to the county. After about 5 years, I've been with the county 16 years and change now. And if you look at my career with the county, I've kind of done just about every kind of police work you can think of, with the exception of canine work, and those dogs scare me to death.
No
so
dogs.
I never
No
wanted
dogs.
to do that. And homicide investigations.
Wow.
So I've been a narc. I've been a covert narcotics detective. I've certainly done my share of patrol work. I was a robbery detective. As a sergeant, I worked in the district problem-solving and drug units for a while down at our southern district, and spent some time on the SWAT team as a team leader sergeant on the SWAT team. Went back out to patrol, did some time as an acting lieutenant. As a lieutenant, I've commanded several patrol shifts in 3 of the 4 districts that we have in the county at present. I commanded our vice narcotics and gang unit for a while. I was the executive officer of 2 of our 4 districts, the deputy commander of 2 of our 4 districts for a while, and then I got promoted to captain, and I've commanded our northern district, which we sit in right now, which encompasses Glen Burnie up to Brooklyn Park, over to Point Pleasant, through Linthicum. It is the most dynamic district in the county. The folks in Western will argue that fact with you. There's a friendly rivalry between Northern and Western now as to who works harder. And the bottom line is every cop in this county works hard.
Absolutely.
But so I was up here for 2 years, and then in late July, the opportunity arose for me to go down to Southern, and I've had Southern since July through this promotion. Southern encompasses right around the bottom end of Crownsville all the way down to the Calvert County line. So
I think it's safe to say you're a bit of a Renaissance man.
I bet,
a little bit of experience.
I've done most of it anyway. Yes, ma'am.
So, Chief, you mentioned that you did some time in the Marine Corps as an infantryman. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Sure. I graduated high school in 1987. Knew my whole life I wanted to be a Marine. I knew I wanted to be an infantryman, and an infantryman is the war fighter, you know, the basic war fighter. I didn't want to be, I didn't want to do anything other than that kind of growing up. So I went into the Marine Corps on a guaranteed infantry contract. I did my first 2 years with the Presidential Honor Guard in D.C. At Marine Barracks 8th and I, or Marine Barracks, Washington, D.C. And then when Desert Shield, Desert Storm started, my brother was a Marine officer, an infantry officer, and I couldn't stand the idea of staying back here while my brother was over there. So I requested a transfer, and I went to 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, and I went over to the Gulf. And we were over there almost a year through Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and thank the Lord, my brother and I both came home safely. But it was a great opportunity to serve in the Marine Corps. There was a lot of wet, cold, and hot, wet nights both. But you kind of forget the bad stuff from the remove of now 25 years, and I have nothing but fond memories of it. I've reconnected recently with the advent of all the social media stuff with some of my Marine Corps buddies, and that's been very gratifying too, because we had lost track of each other over the years.
Wow, bet that was great.
It is.
Well, first off, thank you for your service, and thanks to your brother as well for his service. How do you think that military service adequately prepared you to serve as first a police officer and now Chief of Anne Arundel County Police?
Okay, that's a fair question. So as a police officer, I think that the military does a very good job of preparing one, because it teaches about commitment to mission. In police work, none of us have the resources that we need. It's just a universal truth, just like the Army doesn't have the resources that they need, or any large organization. Nobody's got enough resources. But so in police work, you have to make the most of what you have, and you have to be adaptable in your tactical decision-making, your strategic decision-making. And the service does that quite well. It teaches you a lot about putting your brothers and sisters before yourself, which is important in our line of work, because all of us sacrifice a lot over the years, days with our family, putting ourselves in harm's way. And the service does a really good job, and the Marine Corps kind of beats it into you more than some of the other services, about that subversion of self-interest for the collective, if that makes sense. So I think it does a great job of preparing one to go out there and do the job. And then as a leader, leadership is leadership.
Right.
Whether you're an infantry NCO like I was, helping lead a platoon of Marines through conflict, or a platoon commander on the police department, or a chief of the police department. The leadership tenets that the Marine Corps teaches you translate very well into any of those situations. Now you have to evolve on top of it. Being a Marine NCO did not prepare me all the way to be a chief of police. You have to evolve as you go through your career. But there's two objectives to leadership that the Marines teach you. The first being mission accomplishment, and the second being take care of your people the best you possibly can, and you put them before yourself. So when you look at those two things, whether you're defending the country or you're trying to catch bad guys and protect good guys, they make sense. Does that make sense? So, did I answer your question okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Now, one of the biggest issues that our new county executive plans to tackle is the issue of addiction in Anne Arundel County. I believe statistics are currently pointing towards 1 fatality a week to heroin. How do you plan on tackling this? What are your views on it?
So, it's a great question. First off, police can't tackle the entire issue by ourselves.
Sure.
We have to engage in partnerships. And, you know, partnership is a word we throw around a lot today. And I want to say we need quality partnerships, deep partnerships with community groups, faith-based organizations, treatment programs, treatment systems, the healthcare system, corrections. If we're, as a society, really going to get in front of the addiction problem, all those facets have to come together. And I think we have to be realistic, too, and count small victories as victories, because sometimes in the addiction cycle, a small victory can be all you're going to get for a while. But then, that day, that magic day, you can start to build off that small victory, and you see a light bulb go off in somebody who's been struggling's head, and they finally say, yeah, officer, I'm kind of ready. I need some help. You know what I mean? And I'm very proud, 21 years of police work. I've had 4 or 5 of those stories personally where I kind of took a journey with an addict and played a small part in that recovery, even if it was just, man, you're a person, I'll treat you like a person. You know, you need help, I'll try to get you help. I'll make a phone call for you. Sure. To try to get the treatment you need. And maybe we'll ask one of the social service programs, can we get you relocated so you're not so close to that temptation for the next 6 months until you're feeling stronger. So holistically as a society, we can't do it ourselves. But those partnerships and communication are key. I think we do it, we help with that process by not marginalizing people and reaching out when they're asking for help, and realizing that the hammer of an arrest is not the only part of the process that needs to take place to get them well. And then as an enforcement arm of society, which we are, there's no doubt about it, we have to place heroin and the crimes that are associated with heroin at the top of our priority list, and we're doing that as a police department. And we're going to continue to do that as a police department. I think in the near future, you're going to see some more, well, you won't see them because they're going to be covert, this part of the strategy, but we're going to have some more covert narcotics detectives tasked with heroin. So, and I'm still delving through the numbers, so you're going to have to bear with me on that. The number of actual cops I'm going to put into this unit, but if you come across a crack case, hand it off to the other teams. Mm-hmm. If you come across a large marijuana sale organization, hand it off to the other team, and you folks go after heroin. Mm-hmm. You know, so we're going to do that in the semi-near future, and we're also going to continue to make the efforts on building our intel base. Mm-hmm. We've been working on that quite a bit for the last year and a half, 2 years. We were maintaining a stance that when we came across somebody in an overdose situation, we were making the arrest, not so much to be punitive, but to get them into the pipeline of the system that has the teeth to kind of cajole them along into getting treatment. We've had some legislation changes this year that have necessitated a change on our game plan on that. But just because we're not making an arrest when we show up on an overdose doesn't mean that we can't keep our eyes open and our ears to the ground and start to try to develop information on who's selling the poison in the community and where it's coming from and who's going where to get it and those types of things. So you're going to see us working very hard on that over the next year. I just published yesterday morning our goals and objectives. Our goals and objectives for 2015, and heroin and these strategies I just talked about were one of the 4 that I put out to the agency and said, let's go get it, guys and gals. You know, absolutely. This is important. So.
And it's something that is going to take different facets coming together, which sounds like a sound approach to me.
Absolutely.
Any other of the goals and objectives you want to share with us today?
Sure. Metal theft is still a huge national problem. It's a huge regional problem, and it's huge in Anne Arundel County. And Chief Davis did a great job in setting up, much like I'm talking about with specific to heroin, an enforcement group specific to heroin enforcement. Chief Davis put together an investigative and enforcement group specific to metal theft and the accompanying problems that go with it. So if we're talking about, excuse me, if we're talking about catalytic converters getting cut off cars in a park and ride,
right.
If we're talking about an air conditioning unit getting taken, which happens all the time in Anne Arundel County, if we're talking about a construction site or a vacant home that were burglarized for them to get the copper out of it. And folks, most of this is to go to feed heroin habits or other addictions. We have a team in place to investigate those fully from A to B to C, and it's kind of offender-based. So as we move through time, we develop information on who the folks are doing this, and then we concentrate on them because they're causing a large amount of headaches for the county, so then in turn the police are safe, causing a fair amount of headaches for them.
Right. So metal theft.
Metal theft is the other one.
Yeah.
Commercial robberies are a problem in the county in all 4 districts. We are up. I hesitate to say we're up XYZ%, but we are substantially up.
Is that the time of year?
It's year round so far this year.
Okay.
Our numbers have been up almost from January, and we're doing a lot of work on figuring out the whys, and it's kind of hard with citizen robberies. And citizen robberies are street robberies. A lady or gentleman walking home or coming out of the mall gets stuck up or beat up and their stuff taken. Those you can get your hands on easier because they're kind of geographically located together a lot. We have hot spots for that.
Okay.
And we've done great work in fighting street robberies. All 4 district commanders really use their chess pieces well to fight that. But for commercial robberies, when you say, and just northern, let's talk about just northern district. We have businesses from the city line, 7-Eleven at the city line on Route 2 in Brooklyn Park, down to Ann's Dairy Cream in front of Marley Station, and then when you look out east and westwise from Linthicum, the hotels in Linthicum, over to our neighborhood watering holes in Point Pleasant. So what's going to get robbed?
Right.
You know what I mean? And when you're looking, for the most part, at folks who are robbing these stores to get less than $100 so they can go get high, that leaves it wide open on what's going to get robbed. And everything that I just mentioned to you has been robbed in the past year and a half, 2 years up here. I don't want to jinx Ann's Dairy Cream, but we've had some cases there too. But so that one's tough.
Right.
Now,
commercial robbery.
Societally, certainly there's economic factors there. Yeah. And when we're catching the bad guys, it's a mix of in-county folks and out-of-county folks. So that one's tough, and we're working very hard on it. And I would be tooting my own horn if I said we really have figured out exactly what we have going on yet. But so that's one of my 4. The commercial robberies, putting the resources in place to both prevent them, which is tough, and then to solve them when we get one, and it's too frequent. You know, County Executive Shue and I didn't just start a conversation 2 weeks ago. We've spent a lot of hours together getting to know each other and talking about what's adversely affecting the county that the police can help with. And from the very, very early stages of our relationship, the drugs came up and the gangs came up. And we have a bunch of gangs doing business in Anne Arundel County. They prey upon people. They prey upon the people that they're victimizing in a direct way, and they prey upon the young people that they're dragging into their mess and ruining their lives as well. So it's an insidious evil. they have their hands in everything from drug dealing to extortion rings to robberies that we were talking about, to human trafficking, and it's going on in Anne Arundel County. So that's kind of my fourth prong of the four-prong approach, and it's probably irresponsible of me to say that's the fourth prong, because that's a big one. So you're going to also probably see me move some chess pieces to get more officer hours thrown at that problem too, more cop bodies thrown at that problem. And that is from the Calvert County line to the PG County line, over to Laurel and up to the Baltimore City line in Brooklyn Park. There are gangs active in every, just like the heroin problem is active in every community in this county, there's a gang problem or a gang presence in every community in this county.
Well, I think we can all agree that these are important goals that you've chosen to tackle. And
thank you.
We are definitely excited to see and watch your progress, and we really do thank you for taking the time to be on our show today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your service. Congratulations on your promotion. We'll be right back. This is Week in Review.
If you're looking for a new pet that you can cherish every day, consider adopting from a shelter. Shelters are full of healthy, loyal, fun, loving pets, eager to become a part of your family. A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet, so bring home your new buddy today. To find out more, you can visit theshelterpetproject.org.
Welcome back. Pumphrey residents this week made history by marking history. They celebrated the unveiling of a historic marker for Pumphrey Elementary School that was built in 1923 to commemorate a famed Rosenwald school that was a cornerstone of the community. The schools were named after Julius Rosenwald, a Sears Roebuck executive who established a fund to build more than 5,000 schools for African American students almost 100 years ago. Proud attendees included 96-year-old Wesley Booz, who recalled the time for later generations who gathered at the site. He recalled great teachers and a great sense of community, and the event was organized by members of the Northern Arundel Preservation Society and the Taxpayers Improvement Association.
Speaking of schools, are you one of those people who always knows better how to run Anne Arundel County Public Schools? Well, now's your chance to step up to the plate. There are vacancies on the County School Board Nominating Commission, and applications are being accepted now. Commissioners serve 4-year terms and recommend candidates for the Board of Education. It just so happens that there are 2 vacancies on the school board, so members of the commission will have an important role in filling those spots. For more information, go to www.aacps.org/SBNC. Think you could fit that job into your schedule too, Chris?
You know how to clone?
Oh gosh, I wish I could.
Before we go, we'd like to take a few minutes each week to take you around the web.
Woo!
In this segment, we bring you viral videos that are catching fire online. Sometimes they're related to Anne Arundel County and sometimes not. Since we didn't have a Thanksgiving show this year, we give you turkey dinner in space. Roll it, Chuck.
Do American astronauts only eat the American food that you and your folks are getting ready for them?
Well, our responsibility is to feed the 3 U.S., what's called USOS, the U.S. segment crew members, and then there's 3 cosmonauts on board, and the Russians have the responsibility to provide food for those. However, it is up to the crew on orbit to decide how they share the food and how often they share the food. So yeah, they do share, and it varies from increment crew to increment crew as to how much.
How far in advance do you have to work to plan for this, to get, for instance, food for Barry Wilmore on the station when he is there?
Actually, we are working typically about 18 months in advance.
Kristen, how do you think the Lagana family Thanksgiving would look in zero gravity?
I'm gonna guess that after a couple Zambucas, my aunts are already at zero gravity. How about your family? Did you have a nice Thanksgiving?
I did. I can't imagine how it would be in zero gravity, but it was nice.
Well, that wraps this week's edition of Week in Review. You can watch this episode and archived episode online anytime on YouTube, Facebook, and Google+ at Arundel TV. Please tune in again next week for more highlights and news from around the county. We'll see you next time.